Everyone, this is Tom Parmalee, the founder of funeralvision.com. And today I'm joined by Monica Torres. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's so great to talk to you. I mean, I follow you on social media like many other people. And I guess I'll start with this question. When did you first know you wanted to be a funeral director?
That is a question I get asked a lot. And I think the first time I realized I wanted to be a funeral director was I was about 36 and I went to a funeral. It was my one of my family members. And I thought, you know what? I can do this job. Like there's somebody that does this job. And I kind of realized I'm artsy and I've always had this um view of I think the darker things in life that I knew at that point in my life that was different from other people. And that's when I decided I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to school for this, and I think I'm gonna do something completely different. And I've never looked back.
So you're mid 30s. I mean, it's not really young. Obviously, you'd been doing something else for some time up to that point. What were you doing before when you switched gears?
I was a military wife for 10 years. So I was following my husband around at the time and just living as a military family, supporting my service member. And on the side, I Next Generation wasn't my first business. I had opened my first business when I was 18 and I was a nail technician. And so I worked in the salon and spa business for many years as an entrepreneur before I got married and went to college. And after I got married, I took my license, I transferred it to New York, and I was doing nails in New York and Georgia and Florida and all around the country.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. And I can see some of that sort of how that would translate to your passion for embalming and making the deceased look really presentable for the family. Um,
Yeah, it does. It fit really in line with what I wanted to do at the time.
so, what challenges did you have to overcome in terms of breaking into the profession and making a success of yourself, particularly as a female?
There was a lot of challenges I didn't expect. So that was one of the things, because I'm a first generation funeral director, I did not understand the culture and how legacy plays a really big part in who acquires what role in the funeral home. So I did, as a first generation funeral director, I learned very early on that I was going to have to embrace some sort of tenacity if I wanted to move up in the ranks and just be able to get my license. So right out the gate, I graduated from mortuary college. It was super difficult to land an internship. And that was my first really big challenge that I faced. I know now, being a seasoned funeral director, that all funeral directors that are not, second, third, fourth generation face that, but being Latina, being a woman, and then also my age, right? There's some level of age discrimination, I feel like, too. Those were all really big hurdles that I had to figure out how to maneuver over. So throughout my career, I've overcome a lot of obstacles just to get licensed, start my business, and then now finally acquiring this position with Cairn.
Tell me about that position. I know you're just getting started, a couple months into the job, but I think you are the director of marketing and outreach. But correct me if I'm wrong on that title. And how did you get it? And what are you doing there?
Yeah, it's so exciting. This is a huge change for me, moving from a business that I built on my own, and successfully for over 15 years. I've been running my own company. And I came to this point after the pandemic. Like I'm sure you've talked to many funeral directors that after the pandemic, I felt this like just oppression and this really intense compassion fatigue. And it was beyond compassion fatigue. I was starting to experience some very real symptoms, um, intense anxiety and fear. so many just different physical ailments. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time for me to make a change. And also with my age, I thought, how long can I continue to work in the trenches with this backbreaking work as an embalmer? I always knew early on in my career, I knew that I would be transitioning into another role because of the physical demands of the job. But I had planned that, I thought it wouldn't happen till I was like over 50. A lot of my mentors are like in their 50s and 60s at the time that I met them, and they were embalming. So I thought, well, I'll make that decision then. And the time just presented itself after the pandemic. I was in a car accident. I started having physical issues with embalming, standing long periods. And I thought, what other skills do I have that I can use and still serve families and still serve my clients, the independent funeral homes that I serve? And I thought, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to put all my skills on paper, which I did. I wrote it all down, and then I updated my resume. And once I did that, then it was really clear to me what I wanted to do. So once I compiled all my skills, I thought, you know what? This is a skill that is valuable. The marketing skills that I have through the business that I built through my social media and whatnot, I thought I can do this for somebody else too. And so that's what I did. I just put myself out there. I went on LinkedIn. It was scary. I typed it up. I'm changing careers. I'm here if anybody wants to hire me. And I pushed that send button.
Well, that was very, very brave of you. Now,
Yeah, well, it was
not
scary.
not everyone actually knows what Cairn does and what they can offer. So tell me a little bit about the company.
Yeah, that's one of the aspects of my job that I'm really loving and embracing right now is because I am heading this department, there's a lot of areas that I feel like, okay, how can we really reach our community? And number one, I feel like people need to know what you do. And so right now I'm working on that and getting our community to understand what exactly does Karen do. And it's actually pretty simple. We just haven't really marketed ourselves in that way yet. But Karen, very simply put, is a consultative sales and marketing organization that partners with specifically independent funeral homes, which, as you know, is deeply aligned with my history and the clients that I serve in the death care space. I've always catered to independent funeral homes, so it was just a match. And we basically help them defend, grow, and protect their legacy. And like people are like, well, what does that mean? We have end-to-end solutions. There's firms out there that focus on the pre-need side, as you know, and they help funeral homes with their pre-need. And there's organizations out there that focus on the at-need side, and they help people front of the house operations. We do both. And so that's what makes us really unique is that Karen has this amazing program called Base Camp, and it's designed to identify the long and short-term goals of the company. And we go in and basically help them to overcome those challenges. And we do it in a really strategic manner. We have people on our team that are truly, truly talented. And now we also have two funeral directors, I myself, and also we hired another lady as well, Michelle Carrillo, who's also a funeral director, and she's going to be training as well. So we're offering a lot of unique services to funeral homes. And I think the one thing that I super, super love and I really want to get across to our community is the unique style that Karen offers that support. It's so customized. Every funeral home has these unique challenges. They're all uniquely the same because they're all funeral homes and cemeteries, but they all require a very unique strategy because they have unique needs. Their community has unique cultures. They require that kind of support that's customized. And so that's what we do. We go in and we customize their marketing and their sales projects. And we do it in a way that, to me, honestly, it's revolutionizing. I'm so thrilled to be on with this firm um and know that, as you know, in the past, I've been a person who has been a trailblazer. I've set in motion a lot of different programs that now other companies and even our national association, they've adopted my theories and my programs and they're starting to implement them. And it's nice to be a part of a company who's already doing that on their own. The team that I work with, they all have the same mindset that I do. And that's what I was looking for when I set out for a new position, a new job, a new career. I wanted to be with people that were like-minded and wanted to do things differently. And that's what we're doing.
That's great. And I noticed in November 2023, you were, you had an incredible honor. The Mesa Community College inducted you into its Hall of Fame. I mean, how cool is that? That,
I
you were
know.
mid 30s and, you decided to get into this profession and now you are in a Hall of Fame.
I know, it was so cool. It was like I didn't expect it, and it was such a cool honor. I got to go and they awarded me this beautiful, award, and they recognized me. And it was really cool because it happened on the Day of the Dead. The whole commencement was on the Day of the Dead. So my speech was really in line with what was going on around, and people loved it. The audience really loved it. I brought it up and I said it's so perfect that I'm here standing with you all on the Day of the Dead, because death is part of life and we're here to celebrate death just like we do celebrate life every day. And it was really cool. I had my family obviously was there, and some of my mentors showed up that I hadn't seen in a really long time, and clients, clergy that I had worked with in the past. It was just a really great honor.
Well, very well deserved. And you spoke a little bit about social media. I honestly I can't think of many funeral directors who have such a large following as you on social media. So can you share maybe a tip or two for funeral homes, funeral professionals out there to really engage people on social media and to build their following?
Yeah, my one tip is to engage with me. That's it. Engage with me. You'll see how I do things. And I'm making a lot of big changes at Cairn right now, and they're embracing those changes. Everyone's kind of bracing for the future of what our social media is going to look like. And it doesn't look like a lot right now on the front end, but on the back end, we are busy bees working on what our social media is going to look like, how we're going to engage with our community. And so, yeah, that's my tip, is to stay connected with me on social media and know that you can reach me, all the funeral directors out there. You can still reach me through social media, through my Cairn social media and my personal. That's what's great about Cairn, is that they understand the value of social media influencing, and they realize that the influence that I have in our community it's vast. And so we're definitely going to use that to be able to reach more of our community, help more funeral homes, help more funeral directors, help more embalmers. You'll be seeing us more at state association. So yes, engage with me on social media. Stay up to date on what's going on.
And I know you're also an author of a book, Embalming Tips Revealed, Volume One. Now, when I see Volume One, I think maybe there's a Volume Two on the way. Is there? Are you working on Volume
Yes.
Two?
Yes, so I have enough embalming tips. I've been posting my embalming tips since I was an intern back, I think 2014 or 2012 was one of the first embalming tips that I ever did, back when it was Twitter. When X was Twitter, I started doing my embalming tips and posting them on Twitter, and it has continued for years and years. So probably about I have enough for about 10 volumes. And I am very, very close to completing the second volume. As a matter of fact, I've been for over a year. I have maybe 90% of the book done, and it's been that way for about a year. But I've been focused. I've moved twice. We had a pandemic. We had all these different challenges, my career, all kinds of things going on. So it's just been kind of sitting on one of those, like, it's a project that I need to complete. But yes, people have been asking me. I get messages pretty regularly for people saying, "Hey, Monica, when are you going to release volume two?" So yes, there is a volume two coming out. And volume one has been more successful than I ever imagined. I created that ebook just for myself so that I could be able to like have something and say, "Hey, I wrote a book." But it's been so largely successful. And it's funny because a lot of people that buy it are not funeral directors. It's just people that have this morbid curiosity about what we do. And I think that's what really sparked the Ask an Embalmer live, little classes that I do, is that people they're interested in what we do. So yes, number two is coming out. I'll be sharing that with you all. I don't know when, but it is coming out.
And I always like asking this next question because I learn a lot by the responses I hear. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? Or if you prefer, what's the worst piece of advice that you ignored?
The best piece of advice, you know, when I first started in funeral service, I was like a sponge. I wanted to learn. I was so passionate. I still am. My passion has never ceased. It's never waned. But when I first started, I was just learning. Every day you go to work, you're learning. And there's so much about death care that people just don't know. You're just learning all the time when you start and work in death care and right in the beginning. I had a old school funeral director. He was, I don't know, he's probably in his 80s and he was still working, and we were working on a service together. And he told me, "You know what, Monica, I'm going to give you some advice." And he said, the only thing more important than your funeral director's license is your reputation. And he said, "You have to protect your reputation. You have to communicate with the community so that they know the kind of person that you are, so that they know what you do, and don't hold anything back." He told me that right from the beginning. He said, be very transparent with community and protect your license, but above all, protect your reputation. So that was probably the best advice that I got in my career, and was right out the gate. And probably the worst advice, I would say the worst advice, what I've had a lot of really bad advice over the years, specifically from like haters and people that just, they don't want to see someone else succeed. So they're just ready to throw out whatever. But the worst advice that I got over the years was for me to stop posting my embalming tips. And thankfully I never stopped. And I'm not going to.
Thankfully, for all the people that enjoy your book and have bought it and are learning from you, that's a terrible piece of advice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Like,
ignored that.
yeah.
Well, Monica, thanks so much for joining me today. Is there any final thoughts or anything that we didn't talk about that you want to close with?
Yes, there is. I just want to say to any of the funeral directors out there who may be struggling with mental health right now, if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with burnout, if you're struggling with compassion fatigue, know the difference. Know the difference between burnout and compassion fatigue, and make a change. If it's something that is really that intense for you, make a change. I'm so glad that I made a change. And if they're looking for a change, if they're looking to start something completely new and still work in funeral service, reach out to me. We have opportunities. Cairn has opportunities for funeral directors specifically who need a change, who want to still work in funeral service and maybe still work at their funeral home, but just need a break from the mental and challenges and the physical exhaustion from embalming, meeting with families. So that's the one thing I want to say on and before we end, and I'll leave you on that note.
All right. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.